headlining on Sky Sports in my hometown. I'm nearly at a world top fight. There's all this pressure, but for me, it's like that's nothing compared to the fights I was fighting for little money for. If I lost that fight, my whole career's over. Becoming a world champion is like a kid's dream in any sport. My initials being CBS, I used the mantra consistency builds success. I think that's the only reason I am where I am today. The main issue is Jake Paul calling out real boxers. People got an issue with it.
Put your money where your mouth is. Let's go.
Or saying he beat this person, but that's part of the business. He's technically a cruiserweight, so I'll defend my world title against him for a few million. Do people actually care about the boxing? Only few do. More care about the circus that comes with it. Alcohol's bad for your brain anyway. Getting punched in the head's bad for your brain anyway. How's your brain going to recover? I could pay for my own brain scan after my next fight just to make sure. But then I've got a world title fight. But I failed that brain scan. My whole dream's over.
Man like CBS, how are you?
I'm well, mate. How are you? You good?
I'm good, thank you. I'm good. Firstly, let's talk about these two black eyes you've got going on here. What's happened? Are you not meant to dodge?
Yeah, the big week of sparring, mate. Big week of sparring. So yeah, got that was a thumb at first, as in it started. I had a black eye from getting like a thumb comes through, but then I got hit on it again. That was the next spar, and yeah, now it's probably the worst black eye I've ever had. So perfect time for a podcast.
For any of you that are listening, he's come looking like a panda today. Does it hurt?
No, they never do. Like
they just look scary.
Punches, like it's weird. People always say like, "Oh, that must hurt," but honestly, genuinely, punches don't hurt. Like if you get hit with a massive shot, like even when people get knocked out, stuff like or knocked down, like you get knocked over because of your brain, but it's not a physical pain. It's not like a whacking your shin on something. Do you know what I mean?
On
like,
a pedal.
Yeah, something like that. That hurts. Do you know what I mean? It's like a weird pain, or like it's like a specific sharp pain. But punching on, you got gloves on. I mean, it would hurt if you get a knuckle onto the bone. So like in a fight, it's slightly different because knuckles come through a little bit more. The gloves are smaller, but still, you don't feel it. You don't. I've never noticed it.
That knuckle coming through element, because the little bit of sparring that I've done, you're right. It always felt like a thud as opposed to a hurt, a pain. That knuckle coming through, is that purely based on the glove being smaller?
Yeah, because that's like you.
Not that you guys are hitting harder because you're heavier or anything like that.
You spar in 16 or 18 ounce gloves.
18, you go as high as sparring?
Yeah, I spar in 18s. Some people wear 20s, like heavyweights.
I've only ever seen big as 16.
No, yeah, they got to 18 ounce. So I wear 18s now for sparring. You got a head guard on. So it's basically a fight just with a head guard and bigger gloves. Obviously, you're trying things out and you've got different levels of opponent and stuff, but it's essentially what sparring's got to be. It's got to be as real as possible.
I remember growing up, I used to see Mike Tyson going like that, didn't you? To try and get his knuckles through the gloves, ready for his fight. Animal. Mate, obviously we're close friends, so I kind of know a lot about your upbringing and stuff anyway, but just as a little bit of background, what was life like growing up for you?
I'd say it's as close to perfection, really, as you can imagine a childhood. My parents moved down here with my two older brothers and myself when I was 3. Mm-hmm. We had a 120-foot garden. My dad put paving stones out the back, and we had like an area had a football goal, had a basketball hoop. There was a local park was closing down, the council getting rid of it. So we got the swings and the slide from the park. So we had that in our garden. We had these trees. Sometimes we'd put off this massive net and we'd all just lie on it, or it'd be like a mini trampoline. We never had a trampoline in that house. We got one years later, about 10, 15 years later. But we had a pond there.
I bet you built some amazing dens in that garden, didn't you?
Yeah. I always wanted a treehouse built for my dad. My dad still owes me for that one. So maybe he'll build one for my son now.
If he's listening, we'll make sure he does.
But no, like childhood was excellent. My dad was away a lot because he worked in the films Monday to Friday. At least sometimes he was abroad in France, Malta, Morocco, Mexico, all over the place. So my mum was very much a sort of work, a sort of
single parent kind of
vibe, yeah.
On her own.
But yeah, she was, just a full-time mum, really. Even though she worked a part-time job as well with us at school and
Superwoman.
stuff. So yeah, incredible. But yeah, brilliant childhood. Have every opportunity under the sun.
And you're one of 3 brothers, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're the youngest.
I'm the youngest. Yeah.
You guys used to fight a lot.
I don't think I really fought them that much. I mean, because I was 7 years younger than Ben, who's the middle brother. Then Nick's 9 years older than me, so 2 years older than Ben. So I think them two used to fight a bit as kids, but like. And obviously, I get beaten up now and again. But Ben was the aggressive one, and he used to give me some naughty dead legs. But they're all good times, and like even when they babysat me, and if I did wind them up, they'd put me in my place. But whether that's the right thing to do or not, I don't know. But it was a very loving home.
Sounds like with all the stuff in the garden that you've kind of had a lot of encouragement from an early age to be involved in sports and be quite an active. Would you say that's quite an active guy you were growing up?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean,
at school and that as well.
Everything like for me was sport. That's all I cared about, and I tried every sport under the sun. I mean, I started off playing football from a very young age. My dad actually told me literally yesterday. I picked him up because he's doing some work on our house that we were renovating, and he goes, "You could drop kick a rugby ball at 18 months.
No.
And I was like, could I? I didn't even know that.
You got any videos of it?
No, I don't think he has of that. And he got some of me. I remember me riding a bike in the garden in the house I was telling you about, and me just falling off time and time again to learn to ride a bike. So I had stabilizers, which now I don't agree with because they give you a false sense of security. They got those balance bikes now, haven't they?
Yeah,
for kids. So I'll be getting my lad one of them. But no, yeah. So then my dad said, yeah, but then you found football. And then I wasn't interested because my dad didn't like football. My brothers didn't really play. They played a bit of football, but when they got older. But I loved football. But then I did karate. I tried fencing. I played hockey.
I did karate.
Hockey on a Sunday morning, football on a Sunday afternoon. I did diving on a Thursday night down Poole Dolphin Centre.
Did you go off top one? No.
Yeah.
Did you?
Yeah.
I bottled that.
I was about 7 or 8. I had no fear.
Because they don't let you jump off it. You have to dive.
You have to dive off it, yeah. I think we were to tell. I think in the diving lessons, because had people there with us who were allowed to jump, but I did dive off it. My brother was doing like 1.5 somersaults off the top when he was like 15, 16.
I bottled that top one.
So I've tried taekwondo. I've tried random sports, badminton. I was decent. Got to like okay standard of badminton. But yeah, I love sports, but very few like individual sports. Most times it's like hockey and football, my main two.
Yeah.
And I just loved playing with my mates, playing football with my mates, going even after school. But then at the same time, I had the garden. We had the goal at the back of the garden. I used to literally just, it was in the Beckham era. So I would do like, I'd put chairs out and make a wall and just be taking free kicks after free kicks. So then in my football team, I was the free kick taker, I was the penalty taker. I was the captain. Yeah, I was all right back in the day.
You bend it like Beckham?
Yeah, bend it like Billam. But yeah, no, it was an amazing childhood.
It does sound incredible, to be fair.
And as well, my brothers did go-karting, but my dad had these little pit bikes for my brothers as well, which I eventually, probably when I was 8 or 9, I was riding that pit bike. We used to go down. There was a place in Portsmouth underneath the motorway you used to be able to do, but it's closed off now. But yeah, we used to drag it around there with a mate of mine. So yeah.
What, 8, 9 years old?
Yeah. They're only like 50cc like pit bikes, but like just
like a mini motor, aren't they? The little ones.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, but they were just like little pit bike things. So they were wicked.
You obviously had quite a good relationship with your parents, right? Growing up, would you say? Mum, Dad?
I mean, I think we went to Australia. Shows how privileged my childhood was. When I was
nothing wrong with that.
When I was 11, no, I was so fortunate, and I'm very grateful for it. But when I was 11, we went traveling to Australia it was meant to be a year. We ended up being there for 8 months. So I didn't go to school in year 7 until the last 5 weeks. So I was traveling around Australia. My brothers had left school. Then they went off on their own around Australia.
That's probably why I'm a bit smarter than you, because you've missed out a little bit.
Yeah, something like that. That's why I get punched in the head for a living, mate. But no,
Australia.
And I think in Australia, maybe I didn't realize at the time, I was too young to realize how grateful I should have been. So maybe I'd moaned a bit as a kid. I think me and my dad fell out a little bit there. And then through my teenage years, I think we didn't get on that way. He was having probably money struggles, and him and my mum probably weren't getting on very well. They eventually split up probably in my early 20s. But it didn't really ever affect me in a really bad way. But yeah, me and my dad sort of didn't have a great relationship, I don't think, from about my early teens to probably my early 20s. He was away a lot working. I was a teenager, so I probably wasn't ideal.
Yeah, rebellious. 2 older brothers.
Yeah, 2 older brothers, but they're sorting themselves out. And then, there was me, and I was the golden child. My mum and dad, I don't know if they fell out about me as well, because my mum would a lot of times take my side of things. And it was difficult.
Do you think,
at times?
Obviously, when they broke up, you said early 20s, 21?
Yeah, no, probably, yeah. I think when they actually went their separate ways, I was about 23, 24, but I was 23. But then they probably hadn't been staying in the same room together. We knew they were apart from probably when I was about 19.
Do you think that had any effect on you towards your relationship with your dad? Do you think that put a wedge between it, or was that wedge already there from you being a teenager?
No, possibly. I don't know, really. I think as I grew up, I tried to make an effort at times, but I just don't think my dad was in a very good place. And I think I realise that even more now, because I have a good relationship with him now and see it. But my dad's old school. He doesn't talk about those things,
Doesn't talk about emotion.
No. And my middle brother's like that. He doesn't talk about emotion. He's not a sensitive type. I think he is a little bit softer now. He's got 2 kids of his own. But I've always been very sensitive, very close to my mum. My oldest brother, Nick, is the same, very sensitive and close to my mum. So we've always talked about stuff. But Ben and my dad, they never.
I was going to say, from the years that I've known you, you're very emotionally in tune, I should say. We've had some mad, deep, and I guess you could word it soft chats.
Yeah. Yeah, but I think that's important. I think that's keeps you on the right line. Personally, I think it's always been important to talk about issues from tiny issues to major issues, because the tiny issues just grow into major issues.
I agree.
And if you keep holding these things back, then they just grow and grow and grow. It's like in a relationship with my wife, for example. Like, I won't let things grow, pass. I have to talk about it there and then and deal with it.
I'm like that. That causes issues, though.
Because it does sometimes. But if you bury it, then, or you don't say it's something you're thinking, and then and then it grows, and then another thing happens. And then you've got a list of 6 things, and it all comes out in one argument, and then you have a big Barney, and then.
Do you pick your time though? I always find there's always a right time as well, a little bit.
For me.
Or you just flat out, if it comes, you say it.
Sooner the better. Sooner the better for me, because I just hate that sort of elephant in the room sort of feeling.
And I feel like, as long as you're not you don't have to shout, you're adults, right? You can have a pragmatic conversation about an issue, and come up with a solution together. That's, I think, the only way you can do it. You're right. If you're bottling up, long term, what's that doing to the relationship as well?
Because in the back of your mind, you're always thinking, yeah, but that time you did this. You know what I mean? And that is, they say something that they've done. But
Are you a told you so kind of guy?
Yeah. I am.
I know you're really competitive.
I am, but sometimes, but that's because I'm always right. So
I also know it's never from a place of malice. It's just you're a competitive guy, aren't you?
Yeah, no. And I'm very aware of and happy for criticism. And I'll take stuff on board. I will take stuff on board, and I'll own up to it. I think that's the biggest thing in relationships, is owning your wrongdoings. In all relationships, whether that's wife, parent, child, whatever, I think it's important. And I think it's important as a father myself now as my little lad, he's only 5 months old at the moment, but as he grows up, to show that it's okay to be wrong.
Yeah. And show emotion.
And those sort of things. So, yeah.
I mean, let's touch on that. I was going to say that. So you're a father now of your own, little big man Frank. I say little big man because he's a bruiser, 5 months old. What's that like?
It's the best feeling in the world. There's nothing. Every time I see him, I smile.
Because Because you're away, when you're in camp like now, you're away in a week, right? And then you come home and you see him and us and everyone.
I'm home for about 48 hours, realistically. I get home on a Friday at 5 o'clock, and then I leave about 4 o'clock on a Sunday to get back to London to be ready for Monday. So, yeah, that's difficult. But so when I'm home at weekends, obviously I've got to do a session. We do our run on a Saturday morning. So I get out, me is with Frank in the morning for a few hours, and I've done my last session a week on a Saturday morning, and then we'll, then I've the weekends with them. So I can't go to the football anymore. So I've sort of given the football up. I actually literally got asked this morning that I said, obviously as it's a Saturday, I said, I saw one of the people from the club, and he was like, "Are you going to the game?" I said, "No. I get 48 hours at home now. I've got to use that time to see."
And I bet he's growing quick at the moment.
Oh, it's
well,
scary.
I can see it, but where you miss it for a week.
Yeah, obviously we do a few video calls. Not that he always smiles when he sees me, so that's worth it. But you can't tell that much over how much. But it's scary how much he grows. But when he was born, life just made sense. Like for me, it was I just had this clarity of like, all the noise is just gone, and like that matters, and then it just completely just zone in on one thing. And like, I wasn't in a position to have a child sooner financially, my career and stuff like that. Would have been a lot of stress, but I wish I could have had him sooner. So yeah,
everyone says that, don't they? Everyone says that it's like this incredible feeling. Obviously, I've not felt it yet. And it's one of them things that always sounds a bit cliche, doesn't it? Oh, everything makes sense. It's a love like you've never known. But I'm genuinely really, really looking forward to, if one day I get blessed with being a father myself, what that feeling is actually like. I'm looking forward
to it for you, mate. Honestly, it will change your life for the better.
You spoke about financially you weren't, it would have been too much stress, but is there ever a right time to do anything in life?
Weirdly, I sometimes feel like my life's planned for me, and I'm not like a spiritual person or anything like that, but the way everything lines up, even the bad things, it just seems to make sense. And the time that we fell pregnant, like it took us a while to get pregnant. We were trying for 8 months, but it just all fell in perfect time, and it's almost like you're not ready yet. This will be in the way, that will be in the way. But literally, financially, my career-wise, where we are in our relationship, everything is perfect timing, and I'm very, very fortunate for that. And the world works in mysterious ways, and I'm not really a spiritual person. I'm just a lucky one, I think.
Yeah, I mean, when you say perfect timing, I actually think that's just down to your mindset. That's the way you think.
Well, possibly, but like.
I believe in.
If we'd fallen pregnant a few years earlier, then financially we wouldn't have been in a great position. Obviously, we've just bought a house recently.
Yeah,
that's my first property. But before that, it would have been a real struggle. And there was times during the pandemic I was looking at getting jobs and stuff and ways.
Me too.
Yeah, ways to bring money in. So if it had been 2 years earlier, and also look at I was able to be there when he was born. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to be there when he was born. Dads weren't allowed, weren't even allowed for the scans. I think they were allowed for the birth, but you missed all the scans. I got to experience all of that and be there for Mia as well, which was really important to me.
It is what it is. Mindset kind of thing, isn't it? I think everything will fall into place. You just got to trust the process.
Yeah,
I feel like you champion that in your head.
Yeah, definitely. I think
because you can always find a negative with timing. I always feel like I'm like this. It's not. I always sometimes say it and I have to stop myself. It's not really the right time, but it's never the right time for anything. You create these opportunities.
Or is it always the right time?
Yeah, always the right time. And it's just the way you're.
Yeah.
Am I thinking the glass is half full or half empty?
Yeah, that's it.
I feel like you're a half full kind of guy. Always, you give off that positive energy.
At least 3/4 full, mate. Always. I try to be, and I think because control the controllables. Do you know what I mean? If you can't control it, if something's happened that's deemed as bad, you can't control it. Then don't worry about that. It's happened.
Yeah.
If you dwell on that, life's too short. And we're reminded this constantly of young people passing away, whether that's friends, family, whatever it may be. It's you got to get on with it.
the universe does work in mysterious ways, like you said. Like I've had a few of those, and I'm sure most people listening, and we've all had good and bad fortune, but some things just fall into place, don't they? When you're sat there bargaining with this higher power, whether you believe in it or not, going, oh, I wish this, I wish that, and then it happens. So you're like, your questions are answered by something. It could be your own energy reflecting back. But if Frank wants to box,
no. Look, I want him to understand.
If he grows up and wants to become a boxer, would you teach him or would you veer him away?
It's a real tough one because boxing's given me everything and more, but the dangers of the sport are worrying, and there's only very few who get out financially okay. And the dangers of concussion and CTE, which is punch drunk syndrome, is worrying. I think it's getting better. I think there's measures in place which are better now. You can monitor sparring. I know there's, some gyms, like the Ingle gym, which is obviously Prince Nassim was there, Kell Brook, Kid Galahad, Johnny Nelson, those sort of people. They don't actually do, I don't know how much they do, if any, but they do a lot of body sparring. So they're not taking blows to the head,
really?
Which has its benefits in long term. And obviously there's some great fighters that come out of there, but also you're going to get hit in the head.
Surely you want to be accustomed to it.
You don't want to be accustomed to taking shots as such.
Okay.
It's a hard one. But you want to be accustomed to shots getting thrown at your head.
Yeah.
So otherwise
you need to be quite comfortable, right? As in, you can't just spend 5 years doing body sparring and then get in a ring. First time you get hit, surely you're going to be like, fuck.
Yeah, of course.
What now?
Yeah, exactly. So but I think the discipline and the respect that boxing teacher, it taught me, I think it sort of helped me make me the man I am today.
Yeah.
Which I like to think of as, someone who is respectful and well-mannered and, and disciplined.
I'd agree with that.
And I think that is what boxing gives a lot of kids. There's when you first go into a boxing gym, I mean, I went in when I was 16, done a little bit beforehand, but there's 30, 40 kids in there. And that is like, you have to leave your ego at the door because you're going to otherwise you get made a fool out of. But at the same time, you've got to have an ego to be in this sport. Every boxer's got an ego, and I won't have it any other way.
I think every person with any drive to succeed in any field needs ego. I don't think you can do it without a form of ego.
Yeah, and it's just controlling it, I guess. Like in a way, I think to have confidence is egotistical in a way.
Of course.
So you have to have confidence to be successful.
I think there's that book. I don't know if you've read Ego's the Enemy.
I haven't read that one. I read Obstacles the Way.
So that one, great book as well. Ego's the Enemy, really helped me understand what is ego. Because when you think of ego, you just think of like a narcissist or a control freak. But actually, there's so many elements of it, and it's not all bad. Some of it you have to, if you want to succeed in anything, you need a type of ego. Understanding that was important for me. Let's touch on the dangers of boxing. Does that ever go through your head in training, when your hands are getting wrapped before a fight, when you've just stepped in the ring, after you've been hit hard in the ring, or in sparring like you've got your two black eyes now? Do you ever think about that concussion, that danger of the sport? Because it is a combat sport.
Yeah, I've been concussed.
We've seen boxers lose their lives from...
Yeah, I think I've been concussed twice. Once early on in my amateur career and once in sparring in my amateur career later on.
And when you say concussed, what, I
got dropped in a fight early on in my career. I got up probably at the count of 5 and the ref waved it off. Basically,
you could tell
slipped one punch and then went to throw and just met one as I was going into it. Got dropped. Against a 32-year-old, I was 18. And I was a boy at 18.
Yeah. So was I.
Now I'm a 32-year-old. So that's 14 years ago. Wow. So yeah, that was a reason I knew I was concussed, because I walked out of the ring room where the bout was, had an interview after, walked round to where I've been in this hotel all night, been walking around it all night, knew my way around. Walked through these double doors, back out of the ring room. I turn around to my coach, go, what way do we go? So I had like short-term memory loss. And he goes, looked at me, he goes, just around there to the right. And I walked round the corner to the right, and everything came back, and that was it. Like, that was it from then. Like,
moment of...
I even remember the whole fight and stuff, but it was just that. And I was like, that's what, because I'd literally done that walk 4, 5, 6 times that night, and I've got a good sense of direction anyway. So
yeah, you have, yeah. I mean, you've just sort of answered part of it there. 14 years ago, you're talking. So for 14 years, you're getting hit in the head, not intentionally, obviously. Is it on your mind?
There's a book called Damaged by Tris Dixon, who's a bit of a boxing historian but journalist, written a few books, but he wrote one called Damage, which is on punch drunk syndrome, CTE in boxing, and it's really interesting. But in there, I read it, started reading it, I think it was after the Tommy McCarthy fight. I didn't want to read it beforehand because I was going for a British and European title, but I was like, this is important, and it might make me a better boxer because I'll take even less risk in terms of, or get hit less and want to, get hit less, because my style is a very action-packed style. So that means I'm going to take a lot of shots. So then in the book, though, he does talk about George Foreman, and that sort of gave me some hope in the book. And he talks about, because George Foreman was one of the heaviest punchers ever, but also in an era where you had tiny little gloves and probably some dodgy gloves going on. And also, so he's getting hit by the biggest punchers of all time.
And technology wasn't the same.
And the science wasn't the same, everything. But he never drunk or did drugs. And you see a lot of boxers go from fighting, a 12-round fight, bruised, looking a lot worse than I am now. And the first drink they have is a beer.
Yeah.
Or they might have a water because they've got to do a drugs test. And then they're on the beers on the drink all night. And it's like, that's not good for you. Like, alcohol's bad for your brain anyway. Getting punched in the head's bad for your brain anyway. How's your brain going to recover? So it's scary to see. I think there is actually a rule in the British board where you're not meant to drink for 12 or 24 hours after a fight. But
surely they can't manage that.
It happens. Obviously, I don't drink, so that sort of gave me a bit of faith.
You've been teetotal now how long?
8 years.
For the listeners, 8 years.
8 years. So it's just purely for sport reasons. I thought I don't ever want to have a regret because of, or have a reason to, or if I didn't drink that, imagine losing by a split thing on a card, and then you're just thinking back to that time you drunk 10 weeks before the fight, and you're like, if I hadn't done that, I might have had that little bit more energy, I might have been able to do this. But it's more just a sort of a habit stacking thing and a mindset stacking thing to build you mentally strong and, abstain from something.
Do you think there's anything that can be done to make the sport safer?
I think brain scans before every fight, or before and after every fight.
What's the current procedure with that?
Once a year.
Only once a year? So if you're fighting 4 times a year?
Yeah. Some fighters fight 20 times a year, journeyman.
Those guys, for now, it's another story.
But the thing is, the cost of it, who's going to pay for that? I mean, my one the other day cost 600 quid. I literally did it
I had
last
one on
week.
My hip recently, CT, and it was about that much.
Yeah, so it's like, well, they're always at a minimum £300. Who's going to pay for that after every fight? And if you're a journeyman and you're getting paid £1,500 a fight,
you're not going to spend half of that.
25% at minimum is going to your manager. And you got like some training costs and stuff. You could probably take in 800 quid max from each fight. You're going to do that every week, pay 300 of that just to see if so there's an issue there where, sort of the business meets the health and the human side of it, but what can you do?
Well, I guess.
And then also, if you've had a tough fight, but say if I win my next one, then I've got a world title fight, which is the plan. I could pay for my own brain scan after my next fight just to make sure, but then I've got a world title fight, which is my whole dream.
So if that comes back,
then but I failed that brain scan, and it's like my whole dream's over. Like,
so you're saying some of them are probably,
which is a wrong way to think. But as a fighter and as a competitor, and at the end of the day, we're all still living our like childhood dreams as boxers.
Yeah.
Like becoming a world champion is like a kid's dream in any sport.
Well, I think most boys at a young age look up to that. Yeah. Holding your hand up in a ring, getting the world title belt, growing up. But I even had that dream. I'm not a boxer. But
So then imagine I can be sensible and pay for my brain scan just to make sure I'm all right, got a family, got a wife. But then like, or I could have the fight, and it's like, it's one of them. So it's a hard, hard situation.
So to recap that, Frank isn't boxing ever.
See, I'd like him to go into box gym and train. I think sparring
for the other things, for the ancillary stuff you learn.
I don't think sparring too young. I think that can be dangerous because the brain's developing. Maybe let him body spar up till he's like 18 or 16, 17.
Would you be that protective if he got into, say, rugby?
Yeah, I think rugby's much more dangerous than boxing.
But they're probably the two that you'd be concerned about, would you say, sport-wise?
Yeah, I mean, any sort of
contact
sport like that. I mean, obviously you've got American football as well, but it's not huge over here. But yeah, rugby and boxing, I think
probably the two.
I think we there's obviously, but rugby's doing more. I mean, even football's doing it now. They're not allowed to head the ball and stuff. So,
do you, just taking it back a little bit there, there's something that comes into my mind. Now that you're a father, obviously Frank's only 5 months old, but does it change how you feel now when you said it's like liberating, or you know what the focus is now, it's clarity? Looking back now, feeling what you feel now with how you were with your dad, does it change any of your thoughts about your relationship with him, or the times you might have been a bit difficult to him, or he might have been a certain way to you that you didn't understand at the time, and now you're sort of thinking, oh, I'd probably be like that if that was my son?
No, I don't think so. I mean, Frank's, like I said, he's 5 months old. It might happen, but I'm very open. If my dad was in the wrong for anything, I don't blame him for that. He had didn't have the best dad growing up himself. So, but I have had, my dad's not a bad dad by any stretch. Like, he's always worked and provided for our family. He's a fantastic dad in that sense. He's always provided and wants the best for us, and everything he has done has been for his family and his kids. And then it just comes to the actual relationship side of, but that's difficult because he's away so long. And then if I'm playing up on the weekend and I want to go and see my mates on the weekend when he's only got 48 hours at home with his family and they don't want to see him at a certain age, do you know what I mean? How difficult must that? So I can't blame him. I don't blame him for anything. I think that, especially that era, is like we said, is very closed off. And he's old school, so I don't blame him for that. That's sort of society's fault for being like that. And
during then that period,
I mean, there's that like picture, isn't there, of like be the difference in your family. So like, there's the people shouting down, "You're not good enough, you're not," and then it's like someone putting up a screen and go and be that change. So I'm not saying I am that change and making out my dad's the worst dad ever. He's not, because he's a fantastic dad. Always loved us, always gave us every opportunity. Just me and him had a slightly difficult relationship at times.
You have like generational hand downs, don't you? Like, I always think I was very lucky with my dad and life lessons he taught me, but there's things he would have seen from his father that he unintentionally would have passed down that maybe aren't too good for me, and likewise, and that's probably what you're talking about there. There's never any malice really behind that. Their actions, we're all programmed at a young age. You know, Frank's going to grow up around you and Mia and probably pick up things that you probably didn't want him to hear, didn't want him to see, didn't want him to clock on. If he's anything like you two, he's going to be pretty sharp. So you're going to have to keep an eye on that.
Yeah, well, that's it. It's and who knows? Every parent just does what they think is best for their children at the time, and that's all you can do.
You're close with your mum, aren't you? You're very close with your mum.
Close with my mum. Yeah.
If I said to you, who was the most influential person in your life, who would you say?
It's a tough one. Probably say my mum in a sense, just because she was always loving and just supported me in everything I did. And then it's a weird, like my brother Ben was very influential. I always looked up to him because he was sort of like he's the middle brother.
Who's your hero?
My mum's my hero. She she saved my life when I was 1, and just always been there for me.
Talk to me about that, if you can.
Yeah. When I was 1, I jumped in a swimming pool, and she's like got out, ready for a night out. And I'm not saying that she's superwoman, because any mother would do this, you'd think, but ready to go out. And I jumped in the swimming pool without my sort of buoyancy suit, and she jumped in after me. Yeah. So she jumped in after me and saved my life then. Obviously I don't remember it, but my family and everyone's told me the story. But yeah, she's just inspirational. She had cancer, breast cancer, when I was about 7 or 8. She beat that.
You remember that?
Yeah, I remember being in the hallway of the house, the amazing house, and her just breaking down in the hallway, and my dad just hugging her. And I was just coming out, and I just cried. I didn't know what I was crying about, but
you can feel emotion, can't you?
Yeah.
I think
and I just cried and just hugged their legs because I was small, and mum's crying and dad's there, like just supporting us, obviously not probably trying to be strong. But yeah, and then where are we now? 2022. So she had a stroke in 2020 as well.
I remember that, yeah.
And that was difficult. But yeah, she's come through it, and thankfully my brother's girlfriend, Helen, was there when she was having it. But yeah, and obviously rang the hospital, and they got the amazing injection, which sort of reverses most of the effects, within like 45 minutes. So
that's incredible, isn't it?
Yeah, it is incredible. But yeah, she's just always the life of a party, my mum.
She's an incredible woman.
Happy-go-lucky person, and yeah, she's amazing.
I love that, mate. Love that relationship. I'm pretty close to my mum. I'm a mummy's boy. Let's talk about discipline. And the reason I wanted to bring that up, we sort of briefly touched on this before the show, but what's the difference between addiction and discipline? And let me just rephrase that, because I don't want to be insensitive to people that generally have addiction, working against with that. More like, if someone says to you, you've got an addictive personality, is it an addictive personality, or are you just really disciplined?
Or a dedicated personality.
Dedicated.
Yeah.
Probably the better word.
I mean,
addictive personality or dedicated? Yeah,
I think there's definitely, it's a really good question. And I think
one's got a negative undertone to it.
Yeah.
And one's got a positive undertone to it.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe, I'm sure in 2022, that's probably what we're getting told to call our kids now, is they're dedicated, they're not addictive or whatever. But no, I think
when you do things, you obviously, from our friendship, you're all or nothing. As in, if you're going to go for it, you'll go for it. Now, is that you're addictive, or is that that you're super dedicated?
Yeah, I don't know. I'd say, I think what you said about them being one, having a negative one, I think it depends on the situation. I think you get addicted to bad things, you get dedicated to good things, if that makes sense, because and you almost get dedicated and obsessed with good things. Do you know what I mean? But I think addiction has an addictive personality, is always related to bad things, and maybe that is sort of a modern play on the word, is that it is more of a negative word. I think addictive is more, you cannot leave it, and it eats away at your life in one way, shape or form.
So regardless of the outcome, you carry on doing it.
Yeah.
Effectively.
And that, I think people do get addicted to boxing. I think they get addicted to highs, and I think that's why you see the likes of like Roy Jones Jr. is a perfect example. He had an unbelievable career. Won everything at middleweight, won everything at super middleweight, everything light heavyweight, went up to heavyweight, won a world title, then went back down to light heavyweight. I mean, he's only just, I don't know if he's officially retired. Obviously, he had the exhibition with Mike Tyson in the last couple of years, but like, he went on way too long, and his legacy, for what people see as legacy, has been tarnished because of that. If he'd quit after he won the world heavyweight title against John Ruiz, I think that would have been it. I think he would have been seen as, your Muhammad Ali's, Mike Tyson's, your Roy Jones
He was
Jr.
incredible.
Yeah, unbelievable talent.
I used to pick him in all the boxing games on PlayStation.
Well, he had his own one at one point, didn't he?
Or maybe it was that one.
Or he was the face of it, and it was all about him. Maybe
he had the button R1 and R2, and the special button. He had this like, bosh, like swinging around.
One of his left hooks, the arms behind the back,
like swinging left to right, and then he used to come down with this huge hook. If you landed it in a game, you'd floor everyone.
But no, like I think he was addicted to boxing. Or addicted to the feeling of the high. And I think that's what a lot of people get. They get addicted to that feeling of the high. You've seen people have their issues. Ricky Hatton's perfect example. Obviously, he's, by the time this goes out, he would have just boxed.
Yeah.
In an exhibition.
He's in great shape, by the way.
Yeah, he's in really good shape, but he's been through hell, and he says that himself. He's been, he's put his family in pain, himself in pain, and through addiction, because he was chasing a high that he had in boxing through drugs, alcohol, all sorts. And I think that's addiction, and I think dedication is towards a good cause.
Yeah.
And I think that's the difference between the two.
You're probably the most dedicated and consistent guy I know. Genuinely. Like, have you always been like that? Like say let's take me. If I want to get up today and not train, I just sit on the sofa. If I feel a bit shit, I just don't train. But we were talking about this on the run this morning, not with you because you didn't show up.
No, not this morning.
Funnily enough, we were talking about how consistent and dedicated you are. But I was like, with you guys, you can't, like, I can turn up and do a bench press and I don't have to be present. I can turn up and go for a run. It doesn't hit me back. But with what you do, no matter how you feel, you have to get up, go into the gym, and you have to be 100%. How do you stay there all the time?
You're not 100% the whole time, but you just have to go. But that's like, I was talking to our friend Ben, Ben Reynolds, about this the other day. Like, stress is a good thing. Like, people shy away from too much stress, and that could be mental stress, it could be physical stress, it could be focus-based stress of, and going into a day when you're tired and you've got a spar. Perfect example, my last camp, I was having a terrible camp, had my longest spar to do on the hottest day of the year. It was 38 or 39 degrees outside in the gym in London. Gym's a window, so it's roasting hot in there. But I had to do it. But then that made me so mentally strong. And that's what strength comes from, overcoming things you couldn't do before, But whether that's physical strength, mental strength, emotional strength, all those things, because you deal with a situation you thought you once wouldn't be able to, or it was really hard to overcome. And I think that's really, really important to do. And I think that's just that consistency. Obviously my initials being CBS, I used the mantra consistency builds success. And
Great motto.
I think that's the only reason I am where I am today, is because I haven't, even when I didn't feel like going to the boxing gym, I went. Even when I didn't feel like having a fight, I took the fight, because
where does that come from? Like, where'd you go in your head to find that motivation to do it? Or where does that drive come from? Is it the competitive nature? Is it something from young as a kid that's kind of been instilled in you? A lot of things I do now, I've discovered it's because I tried to fit in as a kid, and it all stems from there. Is there something that where does that drive come from?
Yeah, I think competitive nature, definitely. But also, I think, obviously, you got the man in the arena quote, right? Of the
one of my favorites.
Yeah. I think I've lived by that before I even knew the quote. I just thought, but if you don't, it's almost like that dare to dream, thing. And you're not going to know unless you do it. And then life's too short. You just got to keep putting yourself in uncomfortable situations, get comfortable being uncomfortable in a sense.
Yeah.
And then that just keeps growing and growing and growing. And I think, the competitive nature is definitely something that is huge for me. Because I've always been competitive. It could have been I just weird stuff.
I know.
I'd like see someone walking down the street while I'm on a run, and I have to beat them to the next lamppost and that sort of thing. I'd always be
I've run with you long enough to know that you're always creeping the pace up.
Well, you know that last half a K, 1K. If someone starts running ahead of me, I have to catch them.
You mentioned something earlier that I recently done a bit of a talk on it for Dorset Mind, stress, about how stress is good. Now, the piece I did was stress versus pressure, and actually understanding what the differences are. See, in my eyes, I don't think stress is good, because I think stress is when you don't have the resources to meet the demands and it's uncontrollable. Whereas I think pressure is good in a way, because pressure is self-inflicted. Pressure you put on yourself because you feel the outcomes depends on your performance. But
pressure's only in certain, like, there's no pressure on me to go into the sparring. There is obviously a bit of pressure, I guess, but to turn up for that sparring session the next day, like maybe it's pressure.
Is the pressure though, because you think ahead like me, and if you're competitive, you're sort of thinking, if I don't turn up, I'm going to have pressure on the night, not delivering, I'm going to lose, I'm going to not win.
Yeah, I guess it is day to day.
It's kind of self-inflicted though, isn't it? Because that's not what I mean. I feel like stress is external, pressure is internal. Stress is when I feel, from my experience, the walls are closing in. Everyone's asking stuff of you that you physically do not have enough resources to meet the demands.
Would you not say it's the other way around then? That stress is internal, because you're like, no one can see all this, but the pressure outside.
The feeling is, the way it comes,
I get what you're saying. I get what you're saying, yeah.
But the pressure's like, so if I'm going to roll with someone in the gym that's a higher belt with me, I immediately put so much pressure on myself that I need to perform. That's probably my ego kicking in.
Yeah.
When there's actually there's no physical stress on me. It's not a competition. It's a training.
But also, there's no pressure on you externally.
No, none. It's all in. I'm putting it on myself.
Yeah.
I'm putting it on myself. That it was just important, because I always used to say, I've said for years, I've got a really good relationship with stress. I like stress. But what I actually discovered over the last 5 years, I actually like pressure. I fucking hate stress.
Obviously, what I've always said is pressure's a privilege, which is a Billie Jean King quote, the tennis player. I think that's one of the best quotes ever. Pressure's a privilege, because you're never pressured in a situation that people don't expect something of you. And if people expect something of you, that's a privilege. That
is a privilege, yeah.
Like whether that's your child expecting something of you, having that pressure of delivering for them is a privilege. Like, because they believe in you, or they expect something of you. And if they expect something of you, they believe that you can deliver it, which is a privileged situation. And I think I've had a very privileged life. And I think now, obviously, the pressures are going up. People see the pressures going up from an outside point of view. They see headlining on Sky Sports in my hometown. I'm nearly at a World Tough Fight. There's all this pressure, but for me, it's like that's nothing compared to the fights I was fighting for little money for. Where if I lost that fight, my whole career's over, or it's going to take years to build it back. Or if I make a mistake and get knocked out, like, then you're miles down the line. And
so do you just tell yourself because obviously the fights you're fighting now, which we'll touch on in a second, are fucking huge now. Like, it's not the same you were doing 5-10 years ago.
No.
There is an element of pressure. There's a fucking massive element of pressure. You're fighting in, the last fight was in your hometown, in the biggest arena in your hometown, like a dream that most people have. So are you saying that pressure, when you feel it, what are you telling your brain to not feel overwhelmed by it?
But because, like, as a kid, if you told me you're going to headline your hometown, like, as kids' dreams, like, the pressures get into that situation. Like, you're in that situation then, and like the pressure's on. The pressure is on. But for me, but that's because I'm privileged to have that pressure on me.
To be in that position.
Mm. So if you don't enjoy it, like that's what I found out, like through my pro career over the last 5.5 years, is if you got to enjoy the journey. So you have to enjoy every interview you do, every public workout you do, every weigh-in you do in my hometown on the beach. If I'm not enjoying that, what's the point of doing the sport?
Yeah.
Like I can't. You're in the wrong sport if you're not enjoying those moments, because if you're only enjoying the wins run out after a week. That feeling of winning runs out after a week, and people want to know what's next. If you go, I could finish my career, I could win a world title, I could win multiple world titles, I could earn loads of money. 3-4 months later, no one would care. If I didn't turn up, no one would care. There'd be another fighter. Yeah. And that's what you got to remember. So you have to enjoy it
while it's there.
And you and your team and your family and your network have got to enjoy that moment, because as much as they're going to worry, because they don't have control over the situation.
Yeah.
They can't throw punches for me. They can't slip punches for me. So that's difficult. I get that. But that's the moment where, for me, it's just like, enjoy it, perform. And you're always going to see the best of me in the highest pressure situation. My worst performances always come when there's no pressure on.
Really?
Easy.
Well, they say that thing that if you want to get better, play a better opponent. There's that quote or something like that.
Yeah,
I probably butchered that.
For me, is I mean, don't get me wrong. The first Tommy McCarthy fight, there was a lot of pressure on. There wasn't a great camp. I didn't spar for 3 weeks. I had an injury 3 weeks before that fight. Then 4 weeks before that fight, so I didn't spar. And then and then we had obviously got the win. Yeah, didn't box great. I was boxing great. Got hit with a decent shot in the first round, which probably stunted my progress a bit. But also, I was still learning a lot then. And then in the second fight, I proved everything I'd learned. And obviously stopped him. But other than that, like, that was the high pressure situation. Other than that, my two flats performances was probably in lockdown in March. I boxed a guy who came in 2-3 weeks notice, who had a couple of losses, but really super tough guy, knocked out 8 of his 10 wins or something. But I dropped him a couple of times, won like 99-90 on the scorecards or whatever, in the 10 rounder. And then another one was a guy, I stopped him, he quit after the 5th round, but performance was terrible because I just walked in there, I was having a terrible time at the time. Funny enough, I was addicted to gambling at that point. Me and Mira were going through a bit because of that. In the build up to that fight, I had a lot of issues, and I thought I can just walk through this guy. Like, I don't even have to train, and I could beat him. So there was no pressure on it, because I mean, I injured my shoulder the week before that fight as well. But then I said, like, I was like, don't worry, like, to my team, I said, don't worry, I'll beat him with one hand, like, which I could have done, and like, I pretty much did in a sense, because I couldn't throw this properly. I could still use it, but yeah, you definitely the more pressure, the better I'll perform.
I get that because slightly different, but same. I was the kid that would have to do my homework the night before. If I did my homework the night before, I delivered a good homework. When I did it with 3 months revision, it was terrible. Because there's no pressure, there's no sense of urgency, there's no like cooling. That's how I felt anyway. Yeah. I was actually going to ask you, but you've kind of half answered that. But you've got, like, I would say, would you say you've got an addictive personality? Because obviously, if we talk about the obsession, the pro and the cons, we kind of, I feel I have.
I think I've always thought I do. I think I do. Yeah, I think I do have addicted but dedicated personality.
And then, is there anything that you probably got a bit too dedicated to growing up, but you kind of said that with the gambling?
Yeah, I got addicted to gambling. I think it started from a real young age, like getting pocket money. I used to get like a tenner on a Saturday, or I'd have my paper round money. So I'd get my £2 returned to town and back, and I'd have £8 to spend. So kids would save like £3 for a McDonald's.
What did you do?
We'd go to like Sega World, the arcade. I'd be on like the fruit machines. And like, I think that's where it started, and I just got addicted to that.
Addictive, mate.
Some of them we had cheats for, where we could get jackpot. It was unreal. But
did you play the 2p ones or 10p ones? You remember?
Yeah, 10p plays.
10p, yeah.
Like
big dog.
Yeah, I was balling, mate. And yeah, I just got addicted. But I think that's because, like, I never. You didn't get a huge amount of money from a paper round. I never had a lot of money, and money was never taught to me. Finances were never taught to me. Don't get taught in school.
No, or me.
Anything I ever wanted for Christmas that was expensive, I either got the money to buy it for Christmas off friends and family, mainly with, either close family, or extended family, or I'd get it for Christmas. So
like value of money.
The value of money, I had no value of money. I never have until probably I'd say the last year or two, which is scary because I'm a 32-year-old bloke. So I've only really valued money the last 3 years. Lockdown taught me a lot. I think I learned a lot through lockdown, and I'm very grateful for lockdown because I had to learn. I had no income I think I probably took home $9,000 in about 16 months.
Wow.
So it's about 500 quid a month.
I hear you.
Me and my missus are living in a flat together. So imagine if I'd had a kid then. Do you know what I mean? That's what I'm saying. And I'm having to train still and having to...
You stayed on my sofa, mate.
paid for training and whatever it may be, train tickets and stuff like that. So yeah, it was...
How bad did that get? That fruities, we all play fruities. I play fruities.
But then...
where does that progress
when
to?
I got older, I got into online slots and stuff like that. It was always slots, which was bad because like you'd be chasing that big win.
And it smashes through money.
Oh,
like it's the quickest.
Yeah. Like I was doing like, even as like a 19-year-old who had very, very little money, because I was always worked in like gyms or, and I was living at like, I'd do £2 spins and like, you do 50 spins, which is boom, that's 1, 2. Like,
yeah, you literally
50 spins, 100 quid gone.
Yeah.
Like, and that's like, I honestly, sometimes I probably did like 500 quid in a day when I was earning maybe double that in a month. But like,
how does that stop?
Ultimatum from the wife or girlfriend at the time. We had a serious chat, and I knew it was an issue.
So she clocked onto this. She knew.
Well, I think my mum found out because bank statements get sent to my mum's. She'd see that.
Super mum back at it.
Yeah, and she was like so loving and didn't want to like rip me apart for it. But then it was a detrimental in a way because it carried on for years and years and years. Yeah. And then I'd go back to it, and I'd be really good at times. I'd have like ages off, like 6 months to a year off. And then I'd have a little go, and that turns into a big go. And it's just as like
that little go that you'd go after time off, you going back. Was there something that triggered that? Was there stress, pressure? Was there something that happened in your life?
Maybe money, because like,
because I look at the cycles of my behaviour.
But now, like, I could probably, I could control my gambling. I could have a flutter now easily.
A flutter, what a gambler's word.
or like I could go on even like a slot machine or something, or even online. But the win isn't that big. So it's like, it's not like, because I'm now getting to the stage where I'm starting to earn good money for my fights. Yeah. Then it doesn't like that. It's not as much of a high. So what's the gamble? Like, but I'd never go and put like 500 quid down in Vegas on a roulette table, like go after go or anything like that. I'd be able to go somewhere with a budget and go, right, that's it. When we get to the F1 next year in Vegas.
So what you're saying is
But I think
Mia will walk around with your bank card, and you'll ask her when you're allowed to spend any money.
No, like now she trusts me. She's got it under control, and it's. But I think this is what I was going to say is, bookies are put in. I can't remember. I heard on another podcast recently. They're put in poor areas because rich people don't need to gamble or win £500. So it's do you know what I mean? So now obviously
it's a cycle, isn't it? Vicious
I'm doing
cycle.
better in life financially and with my career. I don't need to try and chase a £500 or £1,000 jackpot by spending 100 or 200 quid. Like, it's not an investment, and that's all I think about is investments. But lockdown taught me that as well. So I think the mix of it. But Mia basically said this got to sort out. If we're going to start a family and we're going to get married and live together, then I can't have that burden over me. Like, I won't do it. And that helped me progress better, and then my career has helped with that.
Big up to Mia. Yeah, I've heard that. I think I watched that same bit about the bookies in poor areas, and they just exploit the behavior, don't they? But I was just saying there, like, I always look at my own behavior, the behavioral cycles I go through, the times when I'm maybe a bit snappy, not training well, not sleeping well, and there's always something that triggers it. Generally with me, it's work stress. And then I go into this loop where I eat shit, don't train, and it makes me feel worse. So I'm putting the worst fuel in at a time when I probably need the best, going round and round and round.
But that comes down to consistency. So that's why having those habits and that daily routine of running or doing a sauna or doing something good for your body and your health, you know, getting up, having that morning routine, which then sets you up for the day. Like you start that well, or you've got something that's constant in your life of a routine, helps you to make the other decisions correct when, like you said, are then always eating certain foods or whatever it may be. Having that in place, then you makes the rest of your life easier. No,
I agree. Let's touch on the boxing. So your dream from a kid as a big Bournemouth fan has always been to fight at AFCB.
Yeah. I think I never thought when I started boxing that it'd be a possibility. I didn't think turning pro would be a possibility.
Second dream would probably be the BIC, right? As in, if you were picking somewhere big to fight, the BIC is the biggest. All the biggest touring people come there.
To headline in your hometown, I've been to countless gigs there. My first ever gig was Arctic Monkeys there.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was a special arena.
So we got to do that this year. This year?
Yeah,
it was this year. God, I felt a bit weird then. This year against Isaac Chamberlain, incredible fight from both of you. Unbelievable atmosphere. Like your hairs were stood up in there, especially when the Bournemouth fans were chanting. I mean, what was that like for you?
Crazy. I didn't hear them until I was just about to start just before Isaac's ring walk. So I get taken backstage. He's basically on the other side of the wall, ready to do his ring walk. And just before that, like I just hear him chant. I was like, that noise is crazy. Like I expected some Bournemouth fans to be there, but I didn't expect that many AFC Bournemouth fans to be there. And it was just incredible. Absolutely crazy atmosphere. Then that I just fed off that. That just invited even more pressure and all these people there to watch you. And that's why I got into the sport. Mate. That's to touch, but go back and to touch on it. The reason I got into sport is I met a mate called Dean at college. Went and started training with him. Went and watched him. 20 of us were there chanting Dino, going Dino, Dino. And I remember stopping and going, "That's an amazing thing! Like that atmosphere, all for you. Like I want a bit of that." And then I've got a whole arena in my hometown. It gives me goosebumps now thinking about it, all that just there for me, and to headline on Sky Sports, the biggest sporting platform in one of the biggest ones in the world, if not definitely the biggest in the UK.
It is, yeah.
And that's all there based around me, and that for me that was an I made it moment as such. It's not where I want to finish my career. I wouldn't be fully content and happy because I've got other dreams, but that is very much a massive tick off the bucket list.
What's your relationship like with failure? What are you like when you lose?
Always more determined.
Yeah,
always.
Do you take it hard initially?
When I first started boxing, I was 17, and I had 2 losses in my first 12, and I cried both times. Once I got robbed quite badly. 3 losses in my first 12. Once I got robbed quite badly and I was all right because I'd performed well. The other 2 times I got stopped. Once was the 18-year-old against the 32-year-old. Once was probably a 20-year-old against a 32-year-old. And I was just like, right, why has that happened? I looked at it very sort of objectively and thought, that's happened because you made a mistake. You did this, you did that. I'm ill prepared. So I took responsibility, and I think once you take responsibility for your failure, you can change it, and you have control over it and control the controllables. As soon as you start blaming judges, even when I got robbed, in my opinion, on one of my losses, I didn't do enough to
convince
the judges. Why am I not stopping him to get the job done? So yeah, I think failure is just another step, and I don't think about it, but if I was to lose my next fight, I'd reassess and I'd go again and till I reach my goal.
Champion mentality, that.
Yeah,
really.
I mean, it's not like I was unlucky. It's like I'd be super upset, but I'd soon go control the controllables. What can you control? You can do this better, this better, this better, this better. Don't make that mistake. You win the fight, whatever.
I can imagine the initial thing is emotion, right? So really heightened emotion, which is probably where that upsetness comes from. Once that dies down a little bit, you're obviously a pragmatic thinker, and then control the controllables kicks in, that sort of stoic mindset, and then you start working on how do you rebuild, how do you win.
Yeah, I do that. I can do that quickly in a lot of situations, whether even outside of boxing. Like I can
assess something.
As blokes, we're all about solutions.
Yeah.
I always say to me, look, I'm a solutionist.
Yeah,
it's a word I've made up. So you can't if you sit and dwell, like you're just wasting time. And it's obviously easier said than done, but for me, very important to get to the bottom of it and fix the problem as soon as possible.
There's something I want to touch on with boxing. Now, you were British and Commonwealth and European cruiserweight champion, right?
Mm-hmm.
So you had 3 belts.
Mm-hmm.
You've now had to vacate 2 of those.
Mm-hmm.
So you're
British and the European. So I'm just Commonwealth champion.
Talk to me about that. What's that? Is that politics?
Yeah, so I had a mandatory, when I had all 3, I had a mandatory for the European and a mandatory for the British. The European is a better belt, obviously, in terms of world rankings and stuff. So we vacated the British so that could get boxed for. It still hasn't been boxed for, annoyingly, and because of fights fell through, so I asked to get reinstated, but they wouldn't allow it because I was boxing Tommy McCarthy and I would box Isaac Chamberlain. That would have given me 2 defences of that belt. Then if I had a boxed a Brit next and still had the British, I would have been able to keep that and win it outright, which is most British boxers, one of their dreams is to win the British belt outright. Nowadays, very hard to do. You have to win it and then defend it 3 times. We had to keep it. The other 2 you keep anyway. You get your own belt.
Of it, yeah.
So I had to vacate that. Which is now getting boxed for at the end of November.
What about the European?
European was recent. I had to vacate. I got a mandatory challenger a guy called Dylan Brejon, who I boxed last November in Sheffield. I think you were at that one.
Yeah, I was there.
On one of the judges' scorecard, I won it 120 to 109, which means I won 11 rounds and 1 round was a draw. The other 2 judges gave it 11 rounds to 1, so they gave 1 round to the other guys. Out of the 36 rounds scored, because 3 judges scoring 12 rounds each, I won 33, I drew 1, and I lost 2. Now this guy, that same guy is now my mandatory challenger of the British title because he's gone away and won 1 fight or whatever. No promoter is going to bring that fight up, and they're not going to want me to headline for the European, or against that guy.
Doesn't make sense.
They gave me a voluntary for Chamberlain because that got ordered, even though he was still my mandatory at the time. Dylan Brejon was my mandatory. They allowed it for the Chamberlain fight. They said, yeah, it's a worthy fight. But they're not going to keep doing that because he's a mandatory challenger. He's not going to sit around and wait for ages. And they probably knew I was going to vacate because the promoters, I've got to try and sell a fight, which I've already completely outclassed the guy over 12 rounds. For that, it's a business, like TV networks.
Bit like Fury's next fight again, almost.
Yeah,
they've kind of done it, but it's had a little bit of backlash purely on the basis that people think he should be fighting a better opponent.
Yeah,
no discredit to either guy.
No, and I kind of sympathise with Fury a little bit because whether he wanted the AJ fight to happen then or not, I don't know. But Chisora's better now than he was for the second fight. I was at the second fight. He was terrible. He was in terrible shape. He didn't care, and he got outboxed. Fury's a lot better.
Yeah,
but Chisora is better and more worthy of the shot now than if it had been that same Chisora years ago. He's put in some good performances, although he's lost a few. They've been okay performances. You've got to look at the whole landscape. Wilder's, he's beaten him 3 times. He's over in America. Ruiz over in America. AJ's it's not happening. He's just beat Dillian White. You look at the whole entire landscape. Joe Joyce isn't going to fight him there on the same network. And look at it's not a sport. People forget that. It's a business.
Yeah.
And once you look at the business as a whole, you go, okay, fair enough. I think people don't want to put it on pay-per-view. People don't want to pay loads of money for a ticket, then don't. Like that's your decision. And the same goes for I guess the YouTube boxing as well.
Well, I mean, let's touch on that quickly. So this influencer boxing thing, do you think it's ruining the sport? Do you think it's helping the sport? Would you ever have a dabble in it? Maybe when your career's over as a...
Like I said, it's not a sport, it's a business. And they're bringing...
big money.
18 million followers, for example, 20 million followers, subscribers, whatever. It doesn't matter if they could...
And 100, 200 million pounds.
And what is it, KSI's crew, whatever they're called, they're doing football matches as well. But people aren't saying, like, kicking off about... But they're earning money through the football matches, which, they've got a charity probably linked to the football matches. But it's because, like, I think the main issue is Jake Paul calling out real boxers. People got an issue with it. Or saying he beat this person. But that's part of the business. Like, they're selling themselves. Like, they're in that position because they've got a following. They're getting people to talk about it. Like, if no one was talking about him, no one would care.
Yeah.
And also, it wouldn't do as well on the business side of things.
I mean, I've just seen Tate and Jake Paul, I think, square up.
Yeah.
Those ones I get, because those ones I feel like they're similar people.
Yeah, but the thing is, Jake Paul hasn't boxed a box yet, so I don't get why people are getting so irate. I think it's because he's calling boxers out, saying he's going to fight Canelo.
So you don't have anything against that scene, do you?
I haven't got anything against it. And who knows? I mean, Jake Paul's a cruiserweight. He's technically a cruiserweight. So
shit, he's your weight.
Yeah, he's my weight. So who knows? I'll defend my world title against him for a few million.
Surely it would make sense. Like when your career comes to an end, if an opportunity was to arise that you get to fight one of those guys, you take it. It'd be a hell of a payday.
Yeah, and that's it. Like if people are going to pay to watch it, and people aren't going to pay to watch it, I don't know. Like just people are too opinionated on it, or just. If they don't want to, don't get involved. If you don't like it, don't get involved in it.
Yeah.
But the fact that people are getting involved in it when they don't like it, like that's, you're sort of hitting yourself around the head.
And they're indirectly making it grow. Like the whole Tate thing on Instagram. Exactly. They blocked him off every social media thing, but every other TikTok was someone sharing his video. Well, the guy blew up naturally, even without a presence.
Yeah, so that's what it's about. Like I'm not a massive talker, which is detrimental to my purses probably. If I was a trash talker and I was always in entertaining fights, which I am, which is slightly annoying in a way, but for me, it's just it's easier to be authentic and be who I am than trash talk about this, that and the other.
Well, you're a good guy and you're authentic to yourself. You entertain in the ring, but you're right. The only thing I guess that we could have add to the package is the gentleman element is good, but it doesn't sell as well as the trash talker because people love drama, don't they? People love negative shit. They almost don't want they don't want the good guy.
That's how Fury got himself to such a good position. His performances weren't they were dominating, but they weren't exciting.
No.
So he taught the talk, and then got himself into a position,
built the hype,
and then beat Klitschko in a boring fight for most people, a really boring fight. And it's like...
Well, he stuck to a game plan,
do people actually care about the boxing being entertaining? Only few do. More care about the circus that comes with it. And that's, I guess, where I'm not so good in the business. Because I'll say a few things here and there, but I'm very
respectful.
Always respectful. And there's certain... I'll say the truth, even if that sometimes might be seen as ungentlemanly, sort of maybe saying an opponent's weakness. But I'll just say my thoughts rather than, I'm going to knock you out, I'm going to, or slapping them or spitting at them or whatever.
Do you think that's one of the reasons why, obviously you've got a fight coming up, right? Let's touch on that before the end. Do you think that's one of the reasons why the to-ing and fro-in took so long? Do you think there's an element, so is there politics behind who's showing it? Is it more pay politics, or is it more the fact that
this fight getting announced?
Yeah, or it's taking. Why is it taking so long? Like, obviously, only reveal what you can reveal. But it was meant to be the 8th and 9th. Then it was meant to be
9th, 10th. Yeah,
9th, 10th. Now it's the 17th. We're 5 weeks out. It's not been announced.
There's so much to it. Other fight, obviously, Eubank versus Billam-Smith was going to be, I think, the 17th. Mm-hmm. That's now getting moved to the new year. they weren't happy with my opponent, or they had people on the undercard which would cost too much, like my old mate Richard Riakporhe.
Yeah.
He was going to be fighting someone. They then offered me to fight him.
Wow.
We agreed a fee and agreed to fight him in Bournemouth on 4 to 5 weeks' notice. And
what a headline show.
Yeah. But he wouldn't fight me in Bournemouth, is what I heard.
Okay.
Even though, which if it's true is a shame, because I boxed him in London. He's a Londoner on his manager's undercard. The guy who's running the show is his manager.
That is interesting. So it's
for probably a 12th, maybe less than a 12th of what he and I would be getting for that fight. Yeah. But at the same time, he's in a position where he's on the fringe of world title. But some people are built different, mate. Some people I was willing to take that risk.
You saw, and obviously saw, and I saw what that atmosphere was like in the BIC. I mean,
he saw it.
Yeah, he saw it. He was there. Yeah, he was there. Obviously, we saw him after at Halo and all that. But there's two elements I believe would be going through his head. One is the judging. It's home judges, it's your home show, etc. And that no matter what everyone says, there's always this argument that will go on forever. No one will ever really know the truth if it goes in favour of home or not. But the second thing is, I mean, how do you stay focused with that energy that you bring to the room, mate? 4,000 people, it's very rare.
He's never been booed into an arena either.
It's and he would have been there. It's very rare to have a show that big, and I think we spoke about this after, where 80 to 90% of the fans are there for one fighter. One side, fucking rare. If you think whenever we go to like Wembley or something to watch a fight, it's pretty 50-50 or 60-40, but it's never like everyone's come out.
Yeah.
I felt for Isaac when he walked out, because I thought, fucking, that like to feel that, people chanting your name, it's like a superpower.
It felt like that. It did feel like that. And I'll forever be grateful for that atmosphere. That's a moment in my life, not just my career, but my life, which I'll always be very grateful and appreciative of it. And it was a special moment to have those fans behind me. I
think you deserve it, mate.
I was just so overwhelmed by the support. It still gives me goosebumps now, and I can't wait to experience it.
Makes me smile as well. You deserve it, mate. You've given your life and soul to the sport, to be fair. So 17th of December, we're expecting a fight.
Yeah, should be.
Do we have an opponent?
At the moment, it's Armand Jojaj, who is ranked top 10 with 2 of the governing bodies.
Okay. Where's he from?
He's Kosovan, but he's based in Germany. So yeah, we'll be looking at him before the.
Who else? If it's not him,
I don't know. But he should be him, and then we'll be looking at a world title after that. The IBF.
Hopefully at AFC Bournemouth.
Hopefully at AFC Bournemouth, which is the dream.
Cool, that'd be sick. Legend. Mate, thank you so much for coming on.
Top man. Thank
you, mate.
Always
a pleasure to chat to you.
Likewise, mate. Likewise.